The NBA can't find its Caitlyn Clark. Look, this sort of ties into what I was saying about Clark now being the biggest athlete in American sports, right? In my opinion, certainly the face of basketball going forward, because there's constantly this who is the face of the NBA debate. When the truth of the matter is that the faces of the NBA remain LeBron James and Steph Curry because the mantle hasn't been passed to that next generation. When you're talking about that next generation, it's clearly Clark. Because look at the All-Star game. Who was the NBA chasing after to juice up its competition? None of its players, the player who is the face of the WNBA. Now, what comes along with that can be a burden. We saw the way Clark was talked about last year. A lot of it was out of pocket. LeBron James is probably the most scrutinized athlete who ever lived, or at least hyper scrutinized when you talk about social media and talk shows every day. But, you can't choose for people. They choose. The WNBA didn't have to promote Caitlyn Clark in order for that to happen. It happened organically. So let's take a look at what LeBron James had to say, because I thought his comments are interesting and worth unpacking to a certain degree. He talked about Anthony Edwards and where Anthony Edwards is in the hierarchy of the WNBA, or in the NBA. I'm sorry, right now WNBA on my mind a lot.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but I don't know why do you want to be the face of a league when all the people that that cover our game and talk about our game on a day-to-day basis on everybody. I mean, have that responsibility. It's just weird. It's weird energy from the people that I don't know, but. Channing, he said it. He said it perfectly. Couldn't say it no better. But Ant said he don't want it. Obviously, I didn't ask for it, but I knew there was a responsibility for me, not only to my family, my friends, my community, and whoever that was going to follow my journey throughout my career. Not only in Ohio when I started there, but all over America and all over the world when I traveled all over the world. So. I've always taken that seriously and understood from the beginning what being a professional was all about and being a role model was all about. So try to hold that with the utmost respect and honor. And but I feel I understand. I completely understand. This is weird energy when it comes to that. So.
It's a lot to unpack there. And I think LeBron is right about some of what he says, particularly the way that the NBA media covers the league. And he's been the case study for that, right? Like every single thing he's done has been about his legacy and hyper scrutinized next to Michael Jordan and the like. As far as Anthony Edwards goes, I don't really I think it's kind of moot because I don't think Anthony Edwards is good enough to be the face of the NBA. Everybody kept trying to make him the next Michael Jordan. He doesn't have the achievements. I wouldn't say he's one of the 5 best players in the game. Obviously, some of those best players are international players. Jokic is a big, which is a hindrance on top of being an international player. Maybe now Luka in Los Angeles can be a difference, but you still go back to LeBron and Steph. And they're still playing at such a high level. It's understandable. I mean, LeBron's playing at an MVP level at the age of 40. Steph Curry just dropped 56. But if you look at the Olympics, they were still the faces of Team USA, right? Which is in a way the faces of the NBA. It's growing into an international game, but we haven't quite seen that mantle passed in that regard yet. As far as, the media coverage, it is, a lot of negativity, how the NBA sucks, how a player isn't clutch. And I think that's why you saw LeBron relate to Caitlyn Clark so much when he wouldn't front on her game, which was obviously a big show of support for her. But 2, he understands more than anyone what comes along with being the subject of discourse every single day, like we saw was the case with Caitlyn Clark. And it must be, burdensome and tiresome and all of that. It must be. So part of that is on the media partners to actually talk about the games more, promote it in a more positive light. And then the other part of it is just that next generation of players hasn't captured the imagination of fans the way the previous one did, the way Steph shots did, the way LeBron chasing that greatness did. That's just the honesty of it, because it's not as if Caitlyn Clark became what she became because the WNBA was pushing her so hard, right? This was also talked about on First Take with Stephen A. Smith and Chenny Agumake. And here's what was said there.
Do you believe LeBron James was justified in saying that somebody shouldn't want to be the face of the league because you have people covering the league every day and all they do is S on players?
I think that we have a responsibility in this business to do two things: provide entertainment and to also provide analysis. And very few are better at the entertainment portion, especially this show, than First Take, right? But the analysis is, I think, what players are looking for more. Even today's show is a good example. How much have we talked about Steph Curry dropping 56 and those 391 points? But the conversations that are overarching sometimes do a disservice to the league when you think about all the achievements that some teams have had. I mean, we're at a point where there are multiple teams that can come out of the Western Conference. But these are the natures of the conversations that we're having.
I will come back to you on that. Go ahead, Gil.
So Stephen A. Smith is tremendous at what he does. I mean, no one can take that away from him, but he is also Exhibit A. You know, it was so predictable as soon as LeBron said this. And look, I would do the same thing if I was on a platform like that, the same exact thing. But as soon as LeBron said that, it was so obvious what the topic of conversation was going to be. It wasn't going to be how great the Lakers look, how good their defense has been despite being small, how awesome the outlet passes from Luka to LeBron have been, what Steph still is doing, you know, any of those topics. It wasn't going to be any of that. It was going to be the comments that LeBron James made because it's easy to drive engagement and conversation off of that. Just like, you know, how often I yearned for the discourse to go to basketball around Clark and the WNBA last year. But if the NBA had its Caitlyn Clark, if it had that next player to take the torch and run with it, the conversation wouldn't even be happening in the first place. Maybe the root issue LeBron is discussing would still need to be addressed, but it wouldn't be around who the face of the league is, because it went from Magic and Bird to Jordan, clearly, right? Like, that's why I reference Clark in the mold of Michael Jordan, because after Magic and Bird, he built the NBA into what it became. Then it was Shaq and Kobe, really, and then LeBron and Curry. And that next one hasn't happened. It will. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, because some of the dire narratives around the NBA are also exaggerated. I mean, this is a league that just signed a massive media rights deal. Those checks are coming in, and still, you know, drives so much, whether people are crapping on it or not, it's driving the conversation. But you know, you don't have to think about it on the WNBA side. It's Caitlyn Clark. You know, people will say their stupid stuff, but we all know, right? Like, aside from who the best player is, I think you arguably have to be one of the best players, if not the best player, to be the face of the league. But that's clearly the trajectory Clark is on anyhow. But, you know, didn't need to be a conversation, didn't need to be broken down, didn't need to be like people handed out roses, whether you're the face of the league or not. It was apparent and clear. And the NBA, I'm sorry, doesn't have that clear answer right now. That doesn't mean LeBron's point is without validity, because I totally get where he's coming from too.